Hello friends, today we'll study about the very clinically important topic, that is the neural systems of the spinal cord. So here we will give more important to the motor neurons. As you know that there are three major neural system in the spinal cord that actually use neurons in the gray matter and tracts or fasciculi of axons in the white matter. So these neural systems have components which can be found at all levels of the central nervous system, from the cerebral cortex to the tip of the spinal cord. So, a knowledge of these three neural systems is very much essential to understanding the effects of lesions in the spinal cord and brainstem, and also at the higher level of the central nervous system. So, first we'll see about the motor system. So, as you know that the motor system, mainly two neurons you will find here is the upper motor neuron that will fire to the lower motor neuron, and the lower motor neuron will innervate to the motor end plate of the skeletal muscles. So, the two motor neuron, that is an upper motor neuron and a lower motor neuron, together form the basic neural circuit that involved in the voluntary contraction of the skeletal muscles everywhere in the body. The lower motor neuron, they are found in the ventral horn of the spinal cord and in the cranial nerve nuclei in the brainstem. So, axons of lower motor neurons of spinal nerves, they exit in a ventral root, then join the spinal nerve, to course in one of its branch to reach and synapse directly at a neuromuscular junction in the skeletal muscles. So, axons of lower motor neuron in the brainstem exit in the cranial nerve. To initiate a voluntary contraction, a skeletal muscle, that is a lower motor neuron, must be involved by or innervated by the upper motor neuron. So, the cell bodies of the upper motor neurons, they are found in the brainstem and also in the cerebral cortex, and their axons, they descend into the spinal cord in a tract to reach and synapse to the lower motor neuron, or on the interneurons, which then synapse in lower motor neurons at a minimum to initiate a voluntary contraction of the skeletal muscles. So, two motor neurons, an upper motor neuron and a lower motor neuron, must be involved to perform this action. So, the upper motor neuron, they innervates the lower motor neuron, and the lower motor neuron innervates to the skeletal muscles. The cell bodies of the upper motor neurons, they are found in the red nucleus at the midbrain, the reticular formation whole of the brainstem, and lateral vestibular nuclei of the brainstem at the pons and medulla. But the most important location of upper motor neuron is the cerebral cortex. So, axons of these cortical neurons, they course downward in the corticospinal tract. So, here you have to note that the upper motor neurons have net inhibitory effect on muscle stretch reflex, And if you will say the voluntary contraction, then the upper motor neuron that fires to the lower motor neuron. If you will say the reflect contraction, then the sensory information coming from the muscle spindles, they will directly fire to the lower motor neurons. Involuntary contraction, upper motor neuron, the decision from the cerebral cortex will reach to the lower motor neuron. But the reflect contraction, the reflex action is done by directly the information coming out through the sensory innervation will synapse or will innervate to the lower motor neuron to do the immediate action. So we'll see the corticospinal tract. The corticospinal tract that already we have studied, but the lesions you will find in the corticospinal tract mainly at the crossing or the decussation of the axons of the corticospinal tract at the medullary level. Medulla and the spinal cord junction has mainly the significant clinical implications that we'll study. And if we'll find the lesions of the corticospinal tract occur above the pyramidal decussation, a weakness is seen in muscles on the contralateral side of the body. If lesions occur below this level, an ipsilateral muscle weakness will be seen. In contrast to upper motor neuron, the cell bodies of lower motor neurons, they actually present lower motor neurons are ipsilateral to the skeletal muscles that their axons innervate to the targeted muscle. A lesion to any part of the lower motor neuron will result in an ipsilateral muscle weakness at the level of that particular lesion. So the primary motor cortex located in the precentral gyrus of the frontal lobe and the premotor area that located immediately anterior to the primary motor cortex, they give rise to about 60% of the fibers of the corticospinal tract. Primary and sensory somatosensory cortical areas, they located in the parietal lobe, they give rise to the 40% of the fibers of the corticospinal tract. So fibers in the corticospinal tract leave the cerebral cortex in the internal capsule, mainly at the posterior limb of the internal capsule, which carries all axons in and out of this cortex, and the corticospinal fibers then descend through the length of the brain stem in the ventral portion of the midbrain, means at the crux cerebri, and at the base of the pons and at the base of the medulla, inside the pyramid of the medulla. Then they descends downward and they decussate to each other, mainly in the lower medulla. 80 to 90% of the corticospinal fibers, they cross at the decussation of the pyramids and continue in the contralateral spinal cord as the lateral corticospinal tract. The lateral corticospinal tract descends the full length of the cord in the lateral part of the white matter of the spinal cord. As it descends, the axons leave the tract and enter the grey matter. As you can see over here, it leaves the grey matter. The lateral cortical tract descends the full length of the cord in the lateral part of the white matter that you can observe here. As it descends downward, axons leave the tracts and enter the gray matter of the ventral horn to synapse on the lower motor neurons. Then we will see the reflex innervation of the skeletal muscles. So a reflex is initiated by the stimulus of a sensory neuron, which in turn innervates a motor neuron and produces a motor response. In reflexes involving the skeletal muscles, the sensory stimulus that arises from the receptors in the muscle and the motor response is a contraction or relaxation of one or more skeletal muscles that you can observe here. In the spinal cord, the lower motor neurons from the specific motor component of skeletal muscles reflexes. The upper motor neurons, they provide descending control over the reflexes. Both the alpha neurons and the gamma motor neurons are the lower motor neurons that participate in the reflexes. So the alpha motor neurons are large cells in the ventral horn that innervate the extraphyseal muscle fibers, and a single alpha motor neuron that innervates a group of muscle fibers which mainly consist of a motor unit, the basic unit for the voluntary, postural and the reflex activity. The gamma neuron or the gamma motor neurons, they supply the intraphyseal muscle fibers which are modified skeletal muscle fibers. The intraphyseal muscle fibers from the muscle spindle, which acts as a sensory receptor in the skeletal muscle stretch reflex. Both ends of the muscle spindle are connected in a parallel with the extraphyseal fibers. So these receptors monitor the length and rate of the change in length of the extraphyseal fibers. So muscles involved with fine movement contains a greater density of spindles than those used in coarse movement. So commonly the deep tendon reflex or stretch reflex you can say, or the myotatic reflex you can say, is the monosynaptic and ipsilateral, and the afferent limb that consists of the muscle spindles and the efferent limb, the lower motor neuron. So these reflexes are useful in the clinical examination. So at the knee, mainly at the patellar part, we can examine the L2 to L4 cord segments of the spinal cord that relays the femoral nerve, and the muscles involved by the femoral nerve will be the quadriceps muscle contraction will be there. Like that, if we will do the ankle jerk, that will indicate to the spinal segment of the S1 related to the tibial nerve, and the reflection will be here at the gastrocnemius muscle. Like that, at the elbow, if you will do the elbow jerk, then it will indicate the C5 to C6 spinal cord segments, and the nerve involved is the musculocutaneous nerve, and the bicep reflection or the biceps contraction or relaxation will be seen. And sometimes the back of the elbow will be also jerked, so that will indicate the C7 to C8 spinal cord segment and involved to the radial nerve, and that gives the reflex action to the triceps muscles. At the forearm, it indicates towards the C5 to C6 cord segment of the spinal cord, and that innervates to the by the radial nerve, and the brachioradialis muscle contraction and relaxation will be visible. So this, what is this muscle stretch reflex? The muscle stretch or the myotatic reflex is a stereotype contraction of the muscle, any targeted muscle, in response to the stretch of that particular muscle. The stretch reflex is a basic reflex that occurs in all muscles and is the primary mechanism for the regulating muscle tone. Muscle tone is the tension that present in all the resting muscles. Tension is controlled by the stretch reflex. The best example of a muscle stretch or deep tendon reflex is the knee jerk that you can observe here. So tapping the patellar ligament stretches the quadriceps muscles and its muscle spindles. Stretch of the spindles that activate the sensory endings, and the afferent impulses are transmitted to the spinal cord, and some impulses from the stretch receptors carried by the fibers, that is monosynaptically stimulate the alpha motor neurons that supply the quadriceps muscles. So this cause uh, contraction of the muscle and a sudden extension of the leg at the knee joint. So afferent impulses that simultaneously inhibit the antagonist muscle, means you will find the hamstring muscles through the interneurons. Then also you will find the inverse muscle stretch reflex. So the inverse muscle stretch reflex that you can observe here, that monitors the muscle tension. So this reflex uses the Golgi tendon organs or the GTOs, and these are encapsulated groups of nerve endings that terminate between the collagenous tendons fibers at the junction of muscle and the tendon. GTOs are oriented in series with the extraphyseal fibers and respond to the increase in force or tension generated in that particular muscle. So increase in force in a muscle that increases the firing rate of the afferent neurons that innervate the Golgi tendon organs, which in turn polysynaptically facilitate the antagonist muscles and inhibits the agonist muscles. So muscle tone and reflex activity can be influenced by the gamma neurons and by the upper motor neurons. So the gamma neurons directly innervate the muscle spindles and regulate their sensitivity to stretch. So upper motor neurons innervate the gamma motor neurons and also influences the sensitivity of the muscle spindles to stretch. Stimulation of the gamma neurons cause intraphyseal muscle fibers located at the pole of each muscle spindle to contract, which activates the alpha motor neurons, causing an increase in the muscle tone. So if you will find a lesion at the upper motor neuron, that will result the hyperactive muscle stretch reflex and clasp knife reflex due to the oversensitivity of the Golgi tendon organs. Now we will see some clinical relations, correlations of the upper motor neuron and the lower motor neuron. So we will compare the upper motor neuron versus the lower motor neuron muscle lesions. So a fundamental requirement of interpreting the cause of the motor weakness in neuroscience cases is the ability to distinguish between the lesions of an upper versus the lower motor neuron, because a lesion to either one of these neurons that produces a weakness in the ability to the voluntarily contract skeletal muscles. So by understanding these points, you can able to distinguish the conditions or the reflexes of the affected muscles. So a lesion of any part of the lower motor neuron will result in hypoactive muscle stretch reflex and a reduction in muscle tone, means you will find the hypotonicity. So because the lower motor neuron from the motor components of the reflex, so the lower motor neuron lesions results in a paresis that combined with the suppressed or absent muscle stretch reflex. Early sign is muscle fasciculations, which are twitches or contractions of the group of muscles fibers that may produce a twitch visible on the skin. Later, lower motor neuron lesions produce the fibrillations, which are invisible, means 1 to 5 millisecond potentials that detected with the electromyography. So muscles denervated by a lower motor neuron lesion undergo the pronounced wasting of the muscles or the atrophy of the muscles. The constellation of signs combining the paresis with the suppressed or the absent reflexes or the fasciculations and atrophy is known as the flaccid paralysis. With few exceptions, you will find that the lower motor neuron lesions produce a flaccid paralysis ipsilateral and at the level of the particular lesion. The upper motor neuron, that including the corticospinal tract, have a net overall inhibitory effect on the muscle stretch reflex. As a result, the combined paresis of the skeletal muscles with muscle stretch or the deep tendon reflexes that are hyperactive or the hypertonic. The hypertonia may be seen as the rigidity, means you will find the postural flexion of the arm and the extension of the leg, or that you will find the postural extension of the arm and the leg. That depends on the location of the lesions. So lesions above the midbrain that produce the decorticate rigidity, and lesions below the midbrain that produces the decerebrate rigidity. Upper motor neuron lesions result in atrophy of the weakened muscles only as a result of the disuse, because these muscles can still be contracted by stimulating the muscle stretch reflex. Upper motor neuron lesions are also accompanied by the reversal of the cutaneous reflexes, which normally yield a flexor motor response. The best known of the altered flexor reflexes is the Babinski sign. The test for the Babinski reflex is performed by stroking the lateral surface of the sole of the foot with a slightly painful stimulus. Normally, there is plantar flexion of the big toe, but if you will find a lesion, so with a lesion of the corticospinal tract, the Babinski reflex that is present, which is characterized by the extension of the great toe and fanning of all other toes. Two other flexor reflexes, the abdominal and the cremasteric reflex, they are also lost in the upper motor neuron lesions. The constellation of signs, they combining the paresis with increased or hyperactive reflexes. So disuse atrophy of the skeletal muscles and altered cutaneous reflexes is also known as the spastic paresis. In contrast to lower motor neuron lesions, the lesions of upper motor neurons result in spastic paresis, that is ipsilateral or contralateral, and below the site of the lesion, upper motor neuron lesions anywhere in the spinal cord will result in an ipsilateral spastic paresis below the level of the lesion. Upper motor neuron lesions between the cerebral cortex and the medulla and above the decussation of the pyramids will result in a contralateral spastic paresis below the level of the lesion. So friends, here we have completed the neural systems, mainly the motor systems of the spinal cord. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe and press the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you.